What up, you guys? Ross out here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining me on the Night Out podcast. And as always, you know what? Life inspires the podcast. My life inspires the podcast. The lives of the clients around me inspire the podcast, mostly because that gives me an idea of what you guys need out there. What are you dealing with? What things upset you? And you know what? Lately, it's been my life a little bit. So I want to tell you about this situation where I have a couple of people who do their best to try and invite me into arguments, and I refuse to fight. I do not engage. I've had a couple of those situations now, and I do my best because I don't want to start something and make it bigger than it already is. I want to address what it is that's bothering you and not get dragged into it where you're fighting me instead of telling me what's actually going on. So here's a scenario. I've had a couple of situations where people have either posted something online or they've made a comment in passing and somebody is offended by it. Chances are somebody will always be offended by something you do. There's no backing out of that. There's no walking around it. It's just going to happen. You got to take it with the punches, right? And the point being that if somebody is offended, it is your right not to have to engage if you don't want to. If this is something you want to defend, fine, by all means. But you have to be able to defend the point at the heart of the conversation rather than fight each other. I don't want it to be you versus me. I want it to be you and me versus the problem at hand. How can we make it better? How can we rectify the situation, right? So I've had a couple of people in my life who have tried their darndest, and I mean like really. They will say things that they don't mean just to test me and see if I am the kind of person who will engage or not, or if I'm affected by the things that they say, or if I am defensive enough to stand up to what they're saying, or if I let it go without a moment's glass, without taking it too much to heart because I've grown enough of a thick skin where it doesn't actually bother me. It's telling me more about you than it is about me, basically is where I'm at. So when I get into a situation where I'm like, I don't engage, they're not getting the reaction that they're looking for, which means they get more angry. Have you ever noticed that? Like if your mom is yelling at you, right? And she's pointing out things that you're not doing right, and she's looking for that battle. She wants the back and forth, but you're not giving it to her. I've had that situation a couple times, like when I was younger and a little bit more immature. When I first met my stepkids, I would yell at them and I'd be hoping that me yelling at them would make them feel bad enough that they would apologize or they would respond back somehow and tell me what the hell was going on. But instead, my stepdaughter would look at me blankly like she was scared, which she was, and I felt badly immediately and I started changing my tactics instead. But she would look blankly, which means she was not going to engage me, which means I'm not going to get a word out edgewise with you, and I'm not going to be able to figure out what exactly is going on for you to do whatever it is that you did for me to end up shouting. Does that make sense? My stepson, on the other hand, would argue back and forth, and then he would walk away from me, which was frustrating to me because he's choosing to leave the conversation, which means we still don't get that final compromise where we can go on about our day and make sure we avoid this particular fight ever again. So it didn't work that way. But learning from those two situations, I realized very quickly that I need to be able to speak in such a way where they're actually going to answer me back, or I'm not going to get anywhere. This is just going to be stalemate forever. You know what I mean? Greatest case in point, and I know I pick on my mom a lot, but is this all past stuff and we're in a different place now, so I feel okay about talking about this stuff. When we were younger, when I was a teenager, she would yell at me and I would yell back because I was tired of just being quiet and taking it. It felt mean to me, and I felt like it was very pointed, like I was the only one who was screwing up everyone's life and I wasn't good enough I couldn't get anything right. I couldn't win for losing, basically. So I would yell back at her, which was actually very disrespectful, right? But I couldn't find any other way for me to voice my opinion. So in those circumstances, what would happen is I was giving her the reaction she wanted, which increased her anger profile, and it increased her her proclivity to raising her hand or screaming even more or punishing me like way worse than what the actual offense was. Usually it was something stupid like I didn't do the laundry or I didn't clean the bathroom well enough. It was something like that. But she was very particular, so she would get very, very offended, right? Eventually, what would happen is she would yell and scream and rant and rave, and then she has this habit of walking away and slamming a door and making a big noise around the house to further show me that she's very upset with me. And what I would have to do is take a step back and think about what is it that she's upset about really, which means maybe she yelled at me because I got upset with her for buying something that I didn't actually want. Now, she never asked me. She was trying to surprise me. She was trying to show me some kind of love. And to her, it felt like disrespect and being unappreciative because I didn't take into account the fact that she spent her money on something that she thought would make me happy. And then I'm telling her, yeah, I don't like this. And she took offense to it rather than learning that, hey, okay, from now on, don't do this anymore because this particular thing is not something I like, or ask me, even though she's trying really hard to surprise me. So it became one of those situations where I had to take a step back and look at what she was saying. Eventually, once things died down, as in like the heightened state of emotion kind of calms down, I'm able to go into her room and ask her, hey, I love you for thinking of me like this. I love you for trying to, to surprise me. It means a lot because you see me working hard. You see me doing so much. You want to show me some love and appreciation. So you did this, but I'm going to tell you from now on, please don't buy this particular candy or whatever. I'm not a big fan of it. And that money could have been used elsewhere in our lives. It could have been helpful in another way, in another capacity, right? But what I realized was at some point, because she's not working, she doesn't have a lot of control over how much money she has or what she can spend or where she can spend it on. So she felt frustrated. She felt like she was not the independent woman she's always been in her life. And so I had to take a step back and really think about what I was saying to her. Because yes, it's going to affect her. Yes, it's going to upset her because she's doing the best she can. And she's in a situation where both her hands are pretty much tied. So she has only this amount of wiggle room to be able to do anything. So I understood. I feel really bad. But it took years of me figuring out that my words or my response back can actually heighten the situation where we miss the entire point altogether instead of getting to the heart of the problem itself. I've watched many scenes in TV, right? And I've used it in the Dear Asati group to help my clients, my students that are in the group itself, to realize that there are many different ways you can fight with people, and only few of them are actually productive. You don't actually get to a final conclusion of, okay, this is the thing I'm having trouble with. This is the thing where you're aggravating this trouble that I'm having. This is how you could help me moving forward, to help me from freaking out, to help me from overthinking, to help me get whatever it is that I need. Maybe I need stability, and maybe I need to know you're not going to leave me. Maybe I need to know, that, my life is planned to a certain degree. And if you have any changes to that plan, I need this amount of wiggle room. I need you to tell me as soon as you know. I need you to keep my plans in mind when you make your plans. Stuff like that. It just depends. But if you're fighting each other on the words you use, on the way you disrespected each other, maybe you put your hands on each other, maybe you called each other vulgar names, maybe you, hung up the phone or blocked them for a little bit, maybe you ghosted them and left them on one tick, whatever. Instead of fighting about those things, I need you to get to the point and talk about the things that really, really do matter. But for that to happen, sometimes you need to not engage. People forget. Everything out of your mouth tells me a little bit about who you are. The way you DM me, the way you approach me on social media, the way you message me immediately after you friend request because you need to sell something. All those things tell me something about you, which I am not going to forget. And I'm not going to judge you for it, but it changes the way I'm going to approach you or respond to you going forward. I had a question the other day when I was like, you know what? I love those conversations that can go on forever. No matter how crazy the topics turn into, we can just keep on talking. But somebody responded and said, you know what, but you quit on me sometimes. And I'm thinking, okay, let me go back and see how many messages I've actually, spoken to them in private or whatever to see what they're talking about. If I have no recollection, or if I've cleared the chat because it was bad, it's because I don't want to remember how you disrespected me. And so I had to respond and say, you know what, if the conversation becomes rude or crude, is disrespectful or vulgar or offensive to me, I have a right to step away from the conversation and no longer engage with you. I can't tell you how many times I made the mistake of writing in and explaining myself and telling them, no, this is not what I mean. I get the impression that you're actually looking for a love connection, and I'm not open for a love connection. I'm here to serve as a counselor, as a therapist. There was a time where I would say, hi, I'm a psychologist, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, and people would be like, oh, okay, which means you're going to judge everything that comes out of my mouth. So they would be a little more cautious. And nowadays, because there's so many life coaches out there, people are assuming that if I say I'm a life coach, that I'm going to talk about love all day long, and that you're welcome to approach me as a possible prospect. They're going to shoot their shot, right? And send me God knows what, for anything from, dick pics to, what is that word I want to use? Suggestive comments, to the point that you think that you can get away with speaking to me like you're going to get at me. I don't know what it is about, this akka fetish that they want to sleep with someone older than them or whatever. And I don't know what about me gives them the impression that I'm even open for that kind of a talk. But I have to stop them in their tracks. And sometimes it's not worth arguing with that person. I have to kind of completely disengage. I don't know how many people I've blocked. I don't know how many people have asked me they've tried, asked me all the way until how much my prices are, to the point that I asked them, okay, well, send me your email so I can send you an invoice. And they're like, well, what's the invoice for? Well, you're hiring me to help you with your love problems, correct? And suddenly they disappear. The point being that you can tell how someone's trying to approach you. You can tell that they're perturbed or upset by something. And you know that I hope you have the right to not engage. Just because you're invited to an argument does not mean you need to attend. You can decline the invitation. If someone asks you, hey, you want to go to a party this weekend? You can say, no, I have things to do. Or you can say, yeah, hell yeah, I'll be there. But the point is that choice lies with you. And the same thing with arguments. The same thing with drama. You can say, no, I'm good. I got stuff to do. I'm tired. I don't feel like going out. I know a lot of people with this whole COVID circuit breaker thing have discovered this beautiful thing that means I don't have to go out to see anybody. I can stay home. I can save money. I can do what I want within my room, watch TV to my heart's content, eat whatever the hell I want. I don't have to go out and put on airs for anybody. I can be home. I can be me. I'm okay. I'm happy. Of course, there are other people who are having a really tough time with that, but that is the difference between introverts and extroverts, and that's totally normal. It's totally fine. But I want you to know, if you are being invited to an argument, if you find that a conversation is turning toxic and they're starting to call you names or yell or raise their voice or put their hands on you, you have the right to not engage. Sometimes saying a little bit more to prove your point or to justify wherever it is that you feel is all they need to jump down your throat about it. You don't need to give anybody else any more ammunition. If they're hell-bent on, misunderstanding you, nothing you say and can do will actually change that choice because they're just so angry. So the best thing you can do is not give them a response, not play into that feeling. I've had so many people over the years say things like, oh, I don't need you. I keep you around sometimes, I like you or whatever, but I don't need you. I can go out and get so many girls and so many boys, and I could get somebody else to do this marketing work, and I could hire somebody else. Fine. Okay, fine. Cool. That's good to know. Because what you're also telling me is you don't find the relationship that you and I have useful to you or important to you. Because if you can throw this in my face, that means I'm not somebody you could care less about if you lost. If I left tomorrow, you'd be okay, is what you're telling me. Now, if that's not what you mean, you should probably change the words you use. But I've seen this over and over again. So many people do this. It's a bait and switch tactic almost. You're going to bait me into getting into the conversation only to use it against me. My ex-husband used to do this. Oh, you don't know how many girls call me? You don't know how many of my exes are still in contact with me? They love me. I don't need you. I could leave you tomorrow and I'd be okay. But you don't know how many people have gotten together with me and suddenly their life is so much better. Okay, cool. That's good to know. I'm okay with that. Because if anybody can take you from me, it means you weren't mine to begin with. If it's that easy, it means you weren't invested in me to begin with. You're just here and I'm a placeholder for you. I'm telling you from my own experience. Sometimes it's not worth it to engage. Do not engage. If you see somebody coming at you, if you see a charging rhinoceros, are you going to try and fight them out of charging? No, you get out the way and you let them charge. Because in that state of mind, they're not going to listen to logic or reason. It's not possible. Do not engage. Sometimes the best thing you can do is get out the way and be quiet. Seriously. I don't know how many times I've been in situations where I'm looking at my dad and he's frothing mad. And I know if I say anything, if I look wrong, I'm going to get it. And I don't want to. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in trouble. My first instinct is to survive this situation. So I, from previous experience, am going to keep my mouth shut until this phase passes. And then I can live to fight another day. I need you guys to know the difference between when it's useful to plead your case and when it's not. And a lot of that comes with trial and error, unfortunately. But you need to know. You do have a choice. You don't have to engage. You never have to engage. Not until the person is actually asking for help. If they need a punching bag, go find a punching bag. I'm not the one. If you need a doormat to do all your dirty work for you, that's congratulations. You know what you want, but I'm not the one. I'm here to help. And I'm happy to help as long as you're putting in effort as well. The minute I feel like you're not putting in the effort, I'm going to start focusing my work elsewhere. My energy will go elsewhere. I have my own work to do. I don't have to babysit or raise any one of you guys. As much as I want to help and I see you guys struggling, I want to step in, obviously. But I also know as a projector, which is my human design, if I step in before I am invited, you're going to brush me off and not take into consideration the experience that I'm bringing to you, the type of help I'm trying to serve you with, and I'm going to end up bitter, and I don't want to be bitter. I don't. I know what I'm worth. I'm happy with the amount of experience I have. I love what I do. I do it all day long. When I tell you I do it all day long, I mean I'm basically on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's something my daughter and I fight about. But I do make space for her, and I do make sure she knows she's loved and well taken care of. But when I tell you I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because my clients are all over the world in pretty much every time zone, it's got to be because I love what I'm doing. So please know, in case you didn't know before now, you have a choice. If somebody is trying to goad you into an argument, they're going to use all of their favorite, trigger words, and they're going to press all the buttons they know usually get you riled up, and you need to see it coming. Because when they start doing that, you have a chance to sidestep and let them swing with all their might and miss. Because once they're tired of trying to hit you and not landing a punch, then they will finally calm down, and you might be in a position where you could talk some sense into them. And that's actually what they need more. Because all of this fighting people, all this drama they create, they're quick fixes. They feel important in the moment, and then it's done. They got to do it again. This is why bullies are always bullies, until they realize that, it's something internal that they need to fix for themselves, so they don't need to take it out on somebody else and then feel important. If you have any questions or comments, you need some guidance, you need someone to talk to, you know where I am, please drop it in the comments below. I take this seriously. But in the meantime, think about what I'm telling you guys. I want you to feel empowered in your life. I never want you to feel like you're cornered or you have no choice. You always have a choice. It's just about recognizing what the choice is. And sometimes the choice is hard, and sometimes it's easy. But the point is, you have a choice. You don't have to argue. You don't have to join the fight, because you end up spending so much energy for what? Nothing. Just shouting and screaming and blowing hot air. There is no solution at the end, and that's actually what you're looking for. Otherwise, the problem persists. Have you noticed? The same situation will keep popping up until you've learned your lesson about how to avoid having that problem ever again. Until you realize you need to learn how to prevent rather than solve at the end. I hope this helps you guys. I love you. Bye.